Feel Free to Feel Free podcast. This is the first podcast we've done with anybody in quite a long bit of time, but we finally decided to get our podcast up because that seems to be the popular thing to do these days. It still amazes me that people sit around and listen to other people talk about nothing, which is what we're good about talking about.
Yeah, I have literally nothing
You
to talk about. This is a prop.
So that's Andy. He's actually the reason our company runs, Combat Flip Flops.
Based on nothing.
Based on nothing. It's how you started. I say that manifestation, you get this idea, and then when you put it down on paper, you actually manifested it in physical form, which means you did manifest it.
But I just broke your entire paradigm because I never write anything on paper.
Liar, I've seen you write on paper. Liar.
And so it begins.
So Andy, talk to us about feeling free to feel free, the history behind it.
That was a term that basically allowed you to smoke weed wherever you happened to be.
And this is the pre-legalization days, right?
Mid-90s, yeah.
Mid-90s.
Somebody'd show up, pipe, bong, joint, whatever. Like, yeah, feel free to feel free, man. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get high later, but maybe not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that whole term is taken on a different paradigm these days because, people have to try to feel free because...
Oh, you can run down rabbit holes with that all day long if you
all day
want
long.
to.
So speaking of a rabbit hole, I'm sure we're going to go down one, quite a large one today because we have Dr. Tony Brooks with us today. So who would have thought our first podcast guest would be a chiropractor? But, when he's the only guy you got, you call him and he says, I'll do anything, Griff. And I go, all right, I need to fill a hole because we had a buddy not flying from Salt Lake today. And he's got quite an interesting story. He's an author. Leave No Man Behind. So it is the story of Private Brooks on Operation Red Wings 2 in Afghanistan, which oddly enough, I watched that from Iraq on all the drone feed. Yeah. And so I actually haven't read the entire book. So I was able to cram in the first couple chapters before he showed up. And it's written really well. I like the conversational tone of it. It's pretty cool. Very humble style of writing, which is cool.
Third chapter, I'm not humble anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
That's not true at all.
Was that a conscious decision?
No, I was just messing with him.
Okay, cool. So then we, I wouldn't put it behind him. He's actually the guy who, when we were doing the Afghan stuff, created a $25 million GoFundMe called Gangster Shit and then poorly photoshopped gangster chains on me.
Yes, very poorly.
Very poorly. Yeah, it's pretty funny. But he got out of the Army, became a chiropractor, entrepreneur, started his own business here in Washington, and has most recently moved to Texas, which I'm sure we're going to dive into that rabbit hole. And then he goes and he throws his Texas hat on.
Your prop is far more stylish than my blank book.
Yeah. I'm basically there already. As soon as I put the hat on. I'm living it.
Cowboy boots miraculously showed up.
Yeah.
And the loafers that he was previously wearing. Yeah.
It just got humid. We might have a flood later.
Yeah, the power is probably going to go down.
It actually did go down earlier, so.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony. And yeah, now you're living life as a dad, chiropractor, veteran, author. And recently you've been imprisoned in Facebook jail.
Yeah, I broke some rules.
Did you?
Go figure.
Go figure.
I told the world that I wasn't able to be served because I couldn't find my passport to go into a restaurant here in King County. If you don't know what we're talking about, King County's a fabulous place. I love it. But it has its issues. Right now, you can't go into a restaurant, a gym, entertainment venue without showing your I have been jabbed with this thing card.
Yeah.
It's like that or a negative test, right? I think those are the two things.
Yeah, either one.
Yeah.
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 Every 72 hours, you have to take a test.
Yeah.
And you're a doctor.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm sure that you have studied this a little bit.
For about a year.
And I'm
And
looking
plus
forward to
more.
your feedback on this. And this is probably going to land us in Facebook jail too, with fact checkers and everybody else. But you do have a medical degree,
Doctor of chiropractic, correct?
which is a medical degree.
It's
And-
similar.
And generally, my father's a chiropractor. I watch him go through chiropractic school, so I understand it's a very intense schooling. But they do teach you how to think about things in a medical standpoint, how to review information,
Correct.
take a look at data, make the best decisions off the data that's being presented from science, not from politics.
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly, yeah. Okay, so I'm looking forward to your viewpoint on this.
Are you still in Facebook jail?
I'm not in permanent Facebook jail, but it won't let me post things.
So, would the metaverse or whatever the shit that is actually just be the new place for, since everybody's going to Facebook jail, maybe Zuck decided to create the metaverse to put everybody there so we can make more money off of them.
I don't know. What I do find is it's interesting because I've actually been to the Facebook headquarters a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't know this, but the Facebook headquarters is built on the old Sun Systems like footprint. And Sun Systems was a big computer tech company, back in the day. And then I can't remember what they did, but they went bankrupt. And then Facebook bought their campus.
Right.
And it was one of Zuck's things is like, we're going to keep this Sun Systems sign there, but we're going to put Facebook in front of it so that way people can remember no matter how big you get, you can always go out of business.
Yeah.
Which is just interesting. Because does that still hold true? Because now they're so big. Are they one of those companies that's too big to fail? Are they generating too much information? And I mean, as a small business owner, I wouldn't say we're dependent on them, but we do count on them for getting our business out to customers to make them inform them of new products and stuff that's going on. So if they were to go away, how would small business change it? But in the end, I think the Meta name kind of sucks. I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, I was hoping for more like beta, as in not alpha. But that was just me. I was hoping.
It's in the considerator now. I wonder if they did even have it in the considerator. And you got to wonder what all the other names that were thrown out by the Silicon Valley folks and choosing the name Meta, and then all of a sudden everybody went Meta.
Hold on. Meta. That'd be more like it, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes, right?
Yeah. But it's the viewpoint around there about what they think is important and how they view you as either a consumer or as a business, as a person paying them. It's dumbfounding. I've been to multiple Facebook campuses, and when you go on their campus and like, oh, we're going to go out to lunch, and you go to lunch and you go out and you get like what would on the street would be like $20 or $30 in falafels or tacos. And you're like, okay, I got the bill. Like, no, we don't pay for food here. Wait a second, what? And in Seattle, I remember they had this like 12-foot tall, single piece copper wrapped wood-fired pizza oven. And then that was next to the slabs of king salmon and steak for lunch. And I was like, no wonder where all of our ad dollars are going. And then going to these places, they as a small business owner, you're like, hey, we're having these issues. Well, you should take that up with your small business rep. And like you call a small business rep, and all they have to do is want you to spend more money because they just want to get more king salmon and wood-fired pizza. They don't really serve the people who are actually generating the revenue for their shareholders and for their salaries, which is just interesting. It's just an interesting mindset.
I'd say, yeah, they definitely serve the consumers that don't pay them. Very interesting, right? The Facebook user is who they're really serving, even though it's free.
Yeah, but they make their money now between their marketplace. They charge a commission to businesses who sell product through there. They charge businesses an absurd amount of money to advertise their products, to make sales. And then don't even get me started on this whole like iOS, like Apple Facebook battle. Because I tend to agree with Apple a little bit on this. I'm not a big fan of them as a company, but I do agree with them on this and like hiding all the data. But I know, looking at our data over the last year, our cost of advertising on Facebook has gone through the fucking roof. It's insane.
Yeah, I always tell anyone that's like, well, Facebook's free, so what's the big deal? And I don't know who's attributed to this quote, but if it's free, do you know where I'm going with this? If it's free, you are the product.
Yeah.
And the data, or your data, is the product of Facebook.
Yeah, and you could just make the case that they're just a pimp.
Elaborate.
Oh yeah, they're big pimps.
Elaborate, Andy. Go for it.
We're the hoe, the users of the John, Facebook's the pimp.
Mic drop.
Like, that's really it.
I think we should just end the podcast.
Good talk, guys.
All right, good. Yeah.
Pimping ain't easy, right, Doug?
And this is why he runs the show here.
No, but like, to just piss a whole bunch. If that doesn't get me in Facebook jail, then they're doing it wrong. But if it's free to somebody, the only reason that we pay them for it is because it works.
Yeah.
We're doing our job shitty if we're paying those guys as much as we're paying them and it doesn't work, then we should just quit right now. Like that. That's why we advertise there. It's why anybody advertises there. From the end user standpoint, there's all the social side of it and all that. That's great. Like, it's entertaining. I go look at it, and really, I just look for nonsense. My all-time favorite post from the internet is still the picture of that fucking rabbit with a pancake on its head. It means nothing.
There's a picture of a rabbit with a pancake on its head.
Fucking awesome.
I need to see this.
We need to put this in the show notes.
Search that. Like, it's just
What kind of pancake are we talking about here?
It's just looks like a kind of a shitty, Krusty's Bisquick pancake on it. It's like the meme was something to the effect of like, I don't know what's going on, or I have nothing to say about that. So here's a picture of a rabbit with a pancake on its head, and it's just fucking bunny sitting there with a pancake on its head, and it's the best thing I've ever seen on the internet.
I'm gonna have to research this. This is the important stuff in life.
And I think yesterday I saw something that was a picture of a steak that said, "Dear vegans, I killed this animal because it was eating all your food. You're welcome." Which was, again, like, these are the uses for the internet that I think are kind of fantastic sometimes. But
Yeah.
and it's nice for us to sell product and like make a living and do what we do. But
Yeah, we leveraged the internet about 10 minutes ago trying to get this podcast set up because we got all new cameras in here and we couldn't figure out how to get the cameras recording. And Andy goes, "Did you shut the SD card door?" "What?" Flip it down. "Oh, everything works."
Poof.
That's great. Boom. Ta-da.
and we're talking about rabbits and pancakes.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten in the hole yet.
Ooh.
No,
Not there yet.
not there yet. We'll get there. Before we get there, let's do a pimp on Dr. Tony Brooks's book. How's it going? How's being an author going for you?
It's been fun. I mean, you get to sit down and have conversations with real buddies, and I've had quite a few of them. You get to see the behind the scenes at the news networks and things that you don't normally get to see. It's not that special, by the way, but you get to see it. And you get to reconnect with all your buddies is the best part. Every single person I've mentioned in that book I've talked to. And before that, I hadn't talked to them in years, some of them. So I think that's the real value in it.
Now, did you write about yourself in the back of this book? Because I always think it's interesting what they write about people and like about the author.
There's a little bit, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
After enlisting in the U.S. Army in 2003 at the age of 21, Dr. Tony Brooks graduated from Infantry and Airborne School, followed by the 4-week Ranger Indoctrination Program, RIP, officially checking into 2nd Ranger Battalion, the best battalion, at Fort Lewis, Washington in September 2004. He then deployed to eastern Afghanistan in April 2005, based at Bagram Airfield. His first mission was Operation Red Wings 2. Tony subsequently deployed to the Ramadi region of Iraq in 2006 to 2007, and he was featured in the Air and Space Smithsonian Magazine and Discovery Channel's Black Files Declassified. Ooh, look at you.
That was
TV
fun.
stuff. Yeah. As an expert on Operation Red Wings, and is also featured in the Backbone docuseries Dr. Tony Brooks Lives in Everett, Washington.
Formerly in Everett, Washington.
Formerly in Everett. Now,
That's
where
a
do you
lie.
live? Yeah.
Fact
it's a
check
lie.
that,
Fact check
Facebook.
it. That'd be funny if we got fact checked on that.
it's a lie. I mean,
Yeah.
it was where I lived. I don't live there anymore, so they need to change it.
No,
Sorry.
Just the haters can just go rip around Everett. That's fine.
Yeah, they already are.
Yeah, they're just looking for you because they're idiots, and there's like, stop fucking here, guys.
I've only had one actual like credible threat since writing a book, which was interesting. I went on CNN and I think the line was, "Move your families where they're willing to protect you," and they ran with that headline everywhere.
What?
I said, they asked me why I moved to Texas, and I said I wanted to move my family where they're willing to protect them, meaning like enforcing laws. I know it's weird.
Mandates aren't laws.
No,
Just okay.
we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But it became headlines on multiple different outlets that Army Ranger states, "Move your families where they're willing to protect you."
Yeah.
I did say it, but we were talking about, I think, Afghanistan at the time. The beauty of media. And I got one 7-minute voicemail message at my clinic. So obviously the guy searched me on the internet, found my clinic, and sent me a 7-minute voicemail telling me how I was wrong. Thanks, buddy.
Where was he from?
I'm not sure. Somewhere in the southern U.S., definitely with the accent. But it was very comical. I have it saved, and I listen to it about every month now,
Yeah.
just for fun.
I mean, can you just paraphrase the message?
Essentially, it was mostly about Afghanistan and how I was wrong when I said that veterans should be proud that for 20 years, women and children experienced freedom.
Yeah.
And that was the overlying message that I wanted to leave at the end of our discussion on the news. And he was very upset about that statement, saying, "You didn't give freedom to anyone. They're all going to die." And while, on some level, I could empathize with that. You know that.
Yeah.
It's not a safe place. People are in danger. But I wouldn't say all of them are going to die.
No.
I mean, that you kind of need women and children to continue as a society.
I want me to get to that in my conspiracy theory of the week when we get to the conspiracy theory section of the podcast.
I can't wait.
Ooh, I know. It's just interesting how the media bends facts. And I remember, in the Rangers, it seems so weird that you're just a dude barely making an honest living, carrying guns, shooting, having fun with your friends, jumping out of airplanes, and next thing you know, you get back to the fob and they have that crappy TV that's on there. It was always playing on the news stations. You're like, oh, they're talking about us.
Yep.
And then you're like looking at the headlines and you're listening to what they're saying. You're like, that's not true. And I remember being 24 years old and experiencing that for the first time and having it keep happen over and over and over again. So as a young adult, I learned that the media, they kind of work around it, but what they're saying isn't really true. Often.
I think
More often than not.
I think a lot of times they're trying to do the right thing. However, what's driving them is our eyes and our ears, not necessarily the truth. And on Red Wings was a prime example. We had been out there for 8 or 9 days at that point, and we came back to the fob, and we look on the news, and they said the search is ongoing for a missing Navy SEAL team. And I'm thinking to myself, no, actually, we got them like 5 days ago, but clearly you don't know that yet. And there was some other details that they talked about that all of us were looking at each other like, did that happen? No, that definitely didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I got a question in the middle of all this.
Send it.
As a guy so I graduated high school, whatever that was, the June after Iraq won, right? So we went in there in January 1991. I was graduating high school right then, living in Montana. So there was the absolute polarity of, we're going to go and, waste people in the desert, or, we're just going to school, or you're kind of the hippie kid, right? And there was that whole hippie revival thing. I went more on the hippie revival side of things. But The reason why was 2 years prior to that, I had a history teacher who said the next major conflict we have will be over oil. When I was 16. And it was one of those like, what? Like, come on, man. He's like, mark my words, the next time that we actually mobilize our military, it's going to be over oil. Right? And then all the shit goes down in Kuwait. We're charge assing into Baghdad. Here we go. And I'm sitting there in high school, like, and there it is. And you know, my stepdad at the time, 20-year Navy guy, like, he wasn't gung-ho, like, you got to enlist or any of that and the other thing. But I was so grateful to have that, like, perspective to be able to go, now, wait a second. I can get dead for that. Right? And fast forward 10 years and your generation of dudes, and it's not something on the news about somebody taking over an oil field and you know, oppression and everything else. Like, you know, there's airplanes and buildings and shit and like really personal stuff going down. And a bunch of people go and, you know, sign up with the best of intentions and charge into it. And now, like, I wonder when or how that process goes, or when, if there was, or what that light bulb moment of, wait a second, I'm enforcing what policy and for who? And this isn't necessarily not what I signed up for, but why I signed up for it. Like that to me would be, I don't know how I would have dealt with that or could have dealt with it, you know? So it's just really, it's really curious. Griff and I talk about this kind of stuff all the time of how you get there. But
I mean, I was a child when I joined.
Well, of course.
So I definitely didn't have that aha moment until much later, after I had already left the military.
And I'm not making an assumption that everybody should have that or did or whatever. It's just always, it was there for me personally, and I went that way. Right. And then now my brother and business partner is a guy who went this other direction, and not because of 9/11, like you had targets on West Point and everything else as your plan, but nonetheless, your community broke my perception of your community because of the relationships that I have. But part of it lies in all this. I'm just curious.
I look at it as a neurologic development thing. Like I was acting pure lizard brain. Like, you attacked me, I'm going to attack you. I don't want my family to have to go do this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm capable. I'm going to go do it.
Right.
Well, now that I'm older, I actually said this recently. I said, you know, when the gunfire starts this next time, you won't see me running towards it.
Right.
And that's not to say that I've changed to the point where I don't know how, or I can't do it anymore. It's just I've learned an important lesson that I'm not going to fight someone else's fight anymore.
Yeah.
I've lost some of my favorite people on the planet because of that, and I'm not willing to do it again.
Yeah.
Who's up next? And the problem we're running into is it will happen again.
Well, of course.
About 20 years we'll forget. Well, it's been a few months and we've already forgot.
We've already forgotten it already.
Yeah, so it's going to happen again, and there's going to be that 20-year-old, 19-year-old kid like I was that's pissed off and capable. They're next up.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way to avoid it other than us having these discussions and getting into positions of power and saying, no, that's not how it's going to go.
Well, or at least the reason I brought it up is like, I reflectively sit there and go, man, like, how grateful was I for Mr. Harrington saying, we're going to go fight over that, and then seeing it happen. And what he didn't say was just, hey, man, think about the foreign policy that's driving the military before you join, which would be the far broader piece of advice, right? Like, before you do this, go and look at, like, really investigate that and understand that you're just now another bullet in the gun for that. And do you agree or not? Because we have the freedom to agree or not and enlist or not. This isn't Israel. We don't have to do this.
Correct.
And those sorts of like those questions, I don't know, are they discussed?
Well, is that part of the problem though? Because we don't have to go, it's easier to make that decision for someone else. Is that part of the problem?
I don't think so. I certainly wouldn't trust this government with saying you have to enlist. Like, oh, hell no.
But do you think there would be more pushback when it came push to shove? We need to go to war. Would there be like, wait a minute, that means I'm going?
I think
Definitely. I think people, if they were held accountable for those decisions, like, oh no, everybody's gonna go now.
My son's going. My daughter is going to have to go now.
Then they would be
Not
involved.
not just the poor kids or just those kids.
I think if it was, man, I don't know, because I still believe that there is an incredibly large amount of people in this country that just absolutely want and kind of demand the freedom to make up their own mind. I don't think they're actually that majority is in control right now, but they're there. They're clearly not, but they are there. I mean, the last time we had the draft was the Vietnam War, correct? Correct. And it didn't stick. And I don't know. I don't think culturally. I don't think it would stick here culturally, and I haven't really thought this through. But the obvious thing to me is, if you're using like Israel as the comparison, Israel is like sitting in a phone booth with 14 different people around it with guns pointed at them and non-bulletproof glass.
They're actually being shot at
all the
while
time
in the phone booth.
by damn everybody from all directions, period. Like all you got to do is just be born and you'll see the reason why you need to do this at some point in your life. And that's not the case here. It just isn't. So how to get that worked in, and especially currently with the lack of trust of the government, man.
Yeah, there are just so many layers to this right now, and I get because I am in the veteran space. We are in the public space. People often come to me, hey, can you talk to my kid about going in the military?
Do you really want that?
And
absolutely,
yes. I'd love to talk to him, and I say like, okay, the first thing you need to do is, like Andy stated it before, is look at the foreign policy. The big guys up top, not the generals, not the colonels, not all the people you see in the movie, they're not making the decisions. It's the guys in DC. Do you trust them with your children? And if they're like, yes or no, okay, like I'm going to tell you how this conversation is going to go. But I honestly feel like I'm robbing, and this is the debate that I have. I feel like I'm robbing some young kid for their ability to have the camaraderie, develop the leadership skills, do all of the things that we built as a result of our experience. But, and I have to like preface it this way, is like, hey, look, man, I'm going to say, I don't think it's the best idea right now, because the people who are going to be putting you and your friends and your leadership on the line, they really don't give a fuck about you. They don't care. They're going to say they do. They're going to make some speeches behind podiums. They might show up at one of your buddies' funerals or show up in a hospital, take some photos to make themselves look good. But in the end, I always go back to Kissinger's line of, this is debated whether or not it was said or not, but I've seen it held true in practice, is that he screamed at a 4-star general in the White House down the hallway, military men are big dumb animals to be used as pawns in foreign policy. And the guy won the Nobel Prize. And I remember watching all the movies as a kid. I remember going to West Point and being fed all the lines and listening to all the military speakers and thinking warriors is really the way it was, and then getting into the machine and then getting downrange and finding out that statement was true. We are big dumb animals used as pawns in foreign policy.
Some are bigger, some are dumber.
Some are bigger, some are dumber. And I would consider myself not the biggest and not the dumbest. No. So being able to look at it, but having guys that were around me come to the same conclusion of like, hey, this isn't what we signed up for. And having that discussion with parents, with kids now, and saying, well, if you want to serve, what are some other ways that you can serve your community? And it sucks, because the thrill of jumping out of an airplane at night, the thrill of sliding out of a helicopter with all of your buddies, doing all of the fun things, it's fun to a certain degree. And then when you're actually put into practice going down range, it takes a completely different dynamic that has the potential to wreck you for the rest of your life.
I think it has a high potential of doing that. And what's cool about the military, though, and to give the little bit of another point of view, is that You know, like you said, those leadership lessons, you can read all the leadership books in the world, but until you have to apply it where it's life or death, it's different. I'm not going to say it's better. I'm not going to say it's worse, but certain lessons will stick much more when you know that that was a life or death decision. And I wish it didn't have to be that way, but it's one of the positive things you learn from the military is how to lead people, how to work with all types of people. And you just learn more about humanity than we give it credit for,
Yeah.
because you're only hearing about the big dumb animal, right? Not, well, I met this guy from Alabama that I've never would have met anyone from Alabama before. Right?
Yeah, I had a college roommate from Mississippi, Nick Beck. You know, I'm coming from Iowa, so you know, there were comparatively how people would look down on our states. We were still, you know, on the bottom states, but you know, obviously Iowa is better than Mississippi. But I'd never hung out with anybody from Mississippi before, and you're hearing how they do things, how he grew up, how he was raised.
Yep.
It changes your perspective. And I'm of the belief that everybody should serve to some capacity, and they should have to serve your country at least 500 miles away from your home of record to put you into different cultures, different environments. I don't care whether you're a parks department guy changing out garbage, or a water, you know, public water utilities dude, or a police officer or something, or a 911 dispatcher, but you should have to serve your nation, and you should have to do it in a place that's not your home to give you a little bit of perspective on life. So that way, when you turn home, you can say, hey, this was better over here. I can bring this back, you know, essentially what the Rangers do for the rest of the Army. Or you say like, no, that place wasn't the best. I'm going to be really thankful for where I'm at, and I want to keep these practices. And hopefully I made that place better while I was there.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point that it doesn't matter how you serve your country. There's other ways to do it. You don't have to go like us kicking indoors.
No.
Like you can. There's other things in the military even, and I'm gonna have a lot of Ranger buddies pissed off at me. But when people ask me, should I join the military? One of the things that I always mention, and I say it kind of tongue in cheek, but have you considered the Air Force? Have you considered it? There are lots of good jobs that's not going to put you directly in harm's way that are very important. They're going to give you skills outside of the military, like working on Boeing planes, for example. You can't do that many other places.
Yeah. People often ask, if you do it all over again, what would you have done? And I was like, I would have gone pararescue.
It's the same thing I said.
Yeah. The things we do that others may live, fantastic. 8 words. And I remember the first time, you know, we'd work with PJs downrange, and I'd made friends with the CRO, the combat rescue officer, because I was a fire support officer. So obviously we were working a lot with aircraft. And one day they invited me into their hooch, and I walked in and I was like, what is this magical place? Where am I right now? And they had, you know, all the cool guy computers, all the cool guy gear. Yeah. Oh, like it's like, oh yeah, man, this is the Air Force, and this is right in the middle of like the Special Operations compound, but it was his own little Shangri-La in the middle of
Absolutely.
it. And then I got to learn more about the pararescue mission, the more National Guard units, which are cool because you do rescues at home. The 212th up in Alaska, like 2 of my personal heroes work at that squadron up there. They're badasses.
I agree.
And I think it's cool that you get to do things at home, save your fellow countrymen, do that. The Coast Guard, actually, I wanted to go to the Coast Guard Academy. One of my biggest disappointments in the military is that I got bounced from going to the Coast Guard Academy, and I took West Point instead.
That was your second choice?
Because I failed the color blindness test. And I wasn't colorblind. I'd been wrestling all winter, and they stuck me in a bright room in the middle of the day, and I just like literally could not see the paper, and I couldn't get the colors on the timer, so I didn't get to go to the Coast Guard Academy. I was gone in, but I just failed my physical. But yeah, the Coast Guard's, I mean, I've been to plenty of Coast Guard stations. They do some really cool stuff.
Yeah, they're doing real life rescues and, you know, protecting our borders that aren't manned with walls.
Yep. Yeah. Anyway, so we've gone down we've started to go down the rabbit hole.
No conspiracies yet, though.
No, I was going to get down there. We're going to go like, you know, what's going on this week for everybody? What's everybody doing? What
You really want to know?
Yeah, I really want to know what you're doing this week.
I am causing a ruckus in King County.
How much of an effect have you had at doing that?
None.
0.
Yeah. But I'm having fun.
It's entertaining to me on Facebook because we're friends.
It's very entertaining for me too. I've never thought people would be so interested in what I'm eating. I get messages. Where are you going to lunch? Where are you going to dinner? I don't know. If I'm hungry, I'll go eat. I'll just try a place
To see if they'll
and report back.
yeah, and see if they'll actually let you in.
I've been only turned down from a few places, and ironically, one of the places was a place that I've spent close to $20,000 at in 6 years, and that makes me a little sick to my stomach.
So you do understand something about this being on social media, right? Like
Yeah.
You really should only be reporting the people that turn you down.
Yes, and I am being very strategic on how I do it.
And not communicating the people that didn't.
If you've seen him, he's seen him.
No,
When I am eating somewhere, I definitely don't mention where it is.
good.
I just show a picture of the food.
You've learned to love tacos.
Well, there's a few places that I found. You know what I found is that the restaurants that are owned by immigrants will certainly never ask
Yep.
why. Why is that? That should be the question, right? It's obvious to me. They've seen what happens when you let government take control of you.
Yeah.
That's why they're here.
That is the biggest problem with all of this to me, like regardless of what you think about COVID and what you think about vaccinations and what you
Yeah.
think about anything. Like shit, when I was a kid, there were things that you kind of didn't ask out of respect. And then there were things like, you never just say, how much money you got in the bank? Like, you fucking say that, man. Like, none of your goddamn business. Right. And like the idea of us being able to sit down with somebody that you've never met before and have the topic of the day be like, are you vaccinated? Are you vaccinated? Which shot did you get? All that, like, and I understand that there's a lot of people that are comfortable with that, but like, it's such a strange, to me, again, it's just such a strange level of fear instilled in the culture that I was party to for a few months when this all kicked off. I was freaked out. I was taking my temperature every day. I was worried about it.
No, we were all prepping for the end.
Oh yeah. Like,
No one knew what was going on.
No, it was scary.
that's-
It was totally scary. But now it's like, there's this, it's like somebody who doesn't necessarily want a lot of walls around me. Like, there's boundaries that I consider good, and that one is vaporized. And, I want to, when somebody I don't know, especially if it's a man, asks me if I'm vaccinated, I just want to ask him if he has do you have a vasectomy?
Maybe.
And
wanna
like,
check?
but and like, maybe I think that your ability to breed and perpetuate your DNA on this planet might be as harmful to me as whether or not I have a vaccine. Like, I don't know, but it's medical stuff. So can I know that about you? And where's your paperwork? And like, I don't really want to have to give a shit about whether or not you are or you aren't. It's just the entitlement to ask the question and the entitlement to an answer is weird.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
hepatitis?
maybe.
Do you have your anthrax vaccine?
I certainly do.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody should
And I will
just,
never forget it.
Yeah.
maybe everybody should just have to open mouth kiss when they meet. Know them or not.
Okay. Get to it.
it's just like
You're up.
whatever. Like, the risk is on, right? Like, I don't know. But that's a horrible idea, and I'm not going through with it. But that's
You don't have a choice. He's going to hold you down. I'm going to do it.
isn't this like
That's
one of
love.
the strongest like muscles in your body?
I think per square inch it is. Yeah.
You're the physician here. You tell us.
Masseter.
We have gone straight to prying the hole open. We're not down the rabbit hole. Now we're talking about how hard it would be to pry it open.
Oh, there's a lot of places we can go with that.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Just give me a freaking rag and a gallon jug of water. We'll get this thing sorted real quick.
That's
Nice.
frightening.
Nice.
Very frightening.
Well played, sir.
Take me about 10 seconds.
Wait, who paid you for that
Zach, you're going to get
education?
involved now.
Who paid you for that education?
You did, actually.
Technically, yes. I am older than you, so yeah, I paid for it at that time.
Yeah, you did. Yep.
You're assuming
It's all coming back around.
You're
Going-
assuming I've actually paid taxes, but
It's going full circle right now. Yeah. So you're causing a ruckus.
I mean, you could say that. I'm going and eating at restaurants, but that is causing a ruckus these days. So, yes.
I think it's interesting because the girl that I'm dating, her brother is one of the biggest musicians in Seattle, and pre-paperwork mandate, he was playing shows, and they were playing anywhere between like 400 to 800 people a night.
Wow.
And then as soon as they had that mandate to show us your papers, it dropped to like sub 200, sometimes around 100. And then Andy, you were in a restaurant, and like you've kind of known some restaurant business owners, and they talk about that.
Yeah, and it's kicked back up. So whatever it was a couple weeks ago, first couple days of the mandate, it was dead. Right.
I saw that as well.
And then it did ramp back up, but when it went dead like that for those few days, that it was like, now wait a second. If we're 70% vaccinated in King County and now there's a mandate, shouldn't there be more people out than less? Or has the economy just been riding on the people that didn't care? Whether they were vaccinated or not, the people that didn't care, And it just, the logical questions came in. So if now the mandate's in place and there's less people going out, or the people that either want them or are vaccinated, just one, don't care about that type of interaction in society, or still afraid. And none of that's been proven or validated one way or the other for me, from what I've seen, because they are busy again.
Yeah.
There was just this like weird skip, but I don't know what he's saying about, it's been a couple weeks now, and what he's saying about shows and venues. And
yeah, I'll have to follow up and then figure it out. But my initial thought on that, my initial reaction is that there's more dissenters than the media would lead us to believe, which is going back to the comment about the media reporting the truth on things that are important.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree that, I mean, I've had a few people send nasty comments to me in private messages, but I'm also getting, every time I post something, I get dozens of people like, keep it up. These are people that don't even push the like button, or they won't do anything. They don't want to show that
they'll DM you,
but they'll send me a message.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, I didn't expect to hear from you. I haven't heard from you in a while.
I'm also running into more and more people that, they're vaccinated, they're into it, they're like,
yes.
Yeah, I made this choice, that are livid that a host at a restaurant has to ask them if they are.
It's very
Right.
invasive.
Yeah, and they're just like, I'm not going out because fuck that. I'm not answering that question. And like giving up that, luxury over the same point. So it's like, in one way it's divisive, in another way it's kind of unifying. It's like there's, people that are and aren't vaccinated, but if they're all like bullshit, like, you can't ask me that. I'm not playing this game.
Right.
Like, the decision to do this is one thing, but now mandating this way and hitting society with it the way it's being hit, I actually think that is like this common thread in it that isn't really discussed, because that would break the polarity of it all.
I'm actually seeing that, like I said, with some messages from people that, on the surface, they would be in the other group.
Right.
But it's not true. But they're not willing to put it out there.
And again, I think this goes back to dissenters, because I've been thinking about this in the framing of the Halloween Honor Bowl, right? As the guy who puts one piece only, right? And all the first kids come up and like, whatever, just take it. And this whole mandate thing is really dependent on people being honest. And with technology today, I cannot count the number of times I've heard somebody say like, oh, that's easy Photoshop. And then when you need to see it, you can just hold up your phone, wave it at them, and it just kind of looks like a card. It's not like the guy's going to type in your number into a database and verify your lot numbers, your dates, and everything else. Not yet.
They're actually developing that QR code technology to do that.
Yeah, which is scary to a degree. But then again, like, people are going to figure out a hack around that.
Yeah. I mean, I actually heard from people saying, oh, I just screenshotted someone, at the beginning of the pandemic when they first got their vaccine, showing their card on Facebook, taking a picture, and they took it and they just used that.
Which, again, I think it's the people who want to go out and eat, who don't really care anyway, who are the ones that are going out. Going back to your point, Andy, is the people who are living in fear and screaming at all of the other things. They're not really helping the business owners that are driving that to the community. I made a Nostradamus prediction when you were talking to me about the restaurant. Is like, I think that like 50% of our restaurants are going to be closed. I mean, restaurant owners work on such narrow margins anyway.
Yes, they do.
That they're really getting hurting. And people go, oh, well, the numbers beforehand, people do more takeout. And like, this isn't pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. This is pre-mandate, post-mandate. These are the stats we need to be looking at.
Yes.
And it's, if you don't want to go to a restaurant because somebody in there doesn't have a vaccine, then don't go to the restaurant. Like, I don't know if it's really helping the business owner or not.
No, I think it's hurting them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm purposely spending extra money at restaurants that do not ask.
Yeah.
That all they have to do is treat me like a human, and I will give you business. That's it.
And it's tough because personally, I will tell you, I have not been to a restaurant, not paid for anything in a restaurant since the mandates went in effect. I'm just so mad about it, but I feel bad because I'm not supporting the business owner, but at the same time too, like it's tough medicine, tough love. Like, do the business owners need to say like, hey, this is hurting our business. We need to change this. And they're
Yes.
the ones who pay the majority of the taxes. They're the ones with the voices, and they're active in their local political communities. They're the ones who are going to make the change. It's the business owners who are going to do it.
It's always on the business owner. I mean, as much as I don't like that, they're the leaders of the community because they have to be.
Mm-hmm.
You have no choice. Your job is to influence people to make decisions. That's your job. And it happens to be you want to influence to make decisions in your business. But you know how to do it.
Yeah.
We all know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it is. I mean, it is on us. And I've just said, you know what? I am going to spend money for people who are taking a little bit of a risk by saying, oh, we forgot to check. I'm sorry. It really isn't that hard.
So this is going to be a shorter
I'm hungry
podcast.
now.
Are you hungry now?
Yeah, we're talking about food.
Yeah, we'll get some food after this. I'll send
Tacos?
you out. Tacos, yeah. Maybe we'll support the Log, our local hometown.
There we go.
Yeah. Restaurant bar, we'll order some tacos or something like that. It's Tuesday, right?
Yeah,
it is
Tuesday
Tuesday.
or like
I had to think about that.
Yeah, it's Tuesday.
There's also really good Thai food right there.
Yeah.
Those
Done.
guys do it right. There's a place just right across the alley from us that does it.
Yeah, I've got
Those are
class.
Back alley.
Yeah, I've got class in between this and our next podcast, which we're actually bringing in a restaurant owner. So we're going to follow up on this afterwards. So getting to whatever, I think the next other thing was like shit that pissed you off this week. Is this just gonna be a continuation of your restaurant?
Kind of. It's actually kind of the same topic.
Yeah.
It's mostly actually the witch hunt for Aaron Rodgers actually is the one that pissed me off the most.
Elaborate.
Aaron Rodgers came down with COVID-19. Apparently at some point he said that he was, I'm going to try to use the correct word. I think he said, I've been immunized, but he went to a homeopath is my understanding.
He said he followed some immunization protocol that was
Correct.
Respected and understood by the NFL, and he communicated the protocol that he was under.
But because the mainstream media didn't understand that it wasn't their version of immunization, that they've gone bonkers. And I've seen him lose a sponsor already. I'm sure there's multiple others following. And I'm done with the cancel culture stuff. I'm like, everyone needs to Dave Chappelle and not get canceled.
That Chappelle special was awesome.
He's amazing.
I honestly, I fell asleep the first time watching it because I think he was a little off.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, he was a little off. He didn't take off, and some of his jokes, like he did the Space Shoes one right at the beginning. I was like, maybe, right? And then it was just kind of slow rolling, and then he got going through, and I actually fell asleep, and then I had to go on a trip, and I came back, and my daughter was like, you fell asleep, but he had this thing about transgender people, and everybody's freaking out about it. So my daughter started bringing it up to me, and I'm like, okay, well, if it's important to my kid and she's expressing this, I'm gonna watch it. So then I traveled to North Carolina with Lee, and we sat down on the Airbnb and we watched the thing in its entirety. And we looked at each other and go, I think people are mad about this because the transgender community like hammered somebody so hard they committed suicide, but they're just taking a certain snippet and they didn't hear all the way to the end of what he'd actually done for the transgender community. And again, like people short attention spans didn't follow all the way through to the end. And it's the same thing with Aaron Rodgers, is like they didn't get their version of what they wanted. So then they were deciding to cancel him.
He lied. That's what they said. That's the part that pissed me off. Saying that he lied. No, actually, he didn't lie. You just interpret it your way versus the way that he intended it. But he used a little wordsmithing. You know, he knew what he was doing. He's a smart guy. He just wanted to go away. It's like, I don't want to talk about this, just like we were saying earlier. Like, none of your business. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, except for the mask thing. Whatever. He won't wear a mask at the podium.
Right. But they still want to hear what he has to say, so they'll
keep bringing him up
they'll
to the
still
podium.
moving everybody 10 feet farther back or something and like keep doing it. And yeah,
I'm just curious how he got it, because those guys, especially when they're in season, they're supposed
That's what
to
he
be,
was saying.
Yeah, how'd he get it?
He got it from someone who obviously was fully vaccinated. That's how he got it, because that's the only people he's around.
but even that statement right there just doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't matter, but
Like seriously,
It kind of makes
it really doesn't, because
No.
if you are or aren't vaccinated and you can carry this bullshit disease, I say bullshit just because it sucks that it even exists,
correct.
then why does that even matter? Like, you got it, you got it. If you got a shot, you're not immune from it. If you don't have a shot, you're not immune from it. That's the problem that I have with all of this, is like, it's like the worst possible execution of really wonderful intentions. Like, wonderful intentions. Nobody wants people to die. Nobody wants any of that stuff. But like, insert fear into it, insert political motivations into it. Like, it's like taking this wonderful intention that could have just literally unified the globe and then sprinkle all the most awful shit on it that you possibly can to create policy to try and actually accomplish something. And it's like, it's so fucked up. Like, and now we have this massively polarizing issue that's, anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like that little caveat of like, well, obviously, you don't know that.
No, I don't.
And nor does it really fucking matter. Like, shit, he could have got it from a dollar bill. He could have got it from breathing something in like, who fucking knows? He got it.
I think the biggest thing for me was, you know, just like you said, it doesn't matter who it came from, first of all. Second, if it did, let's just say it did come from someone who was fully vaccinated, the way he was treated versus how they were treated, not the same.
Yeah.
He was taking a test every morning.
Yeah. Those guys are scrutinized.
So he was one of the safest people in the room almost at any given moment.
Or at least they had the most data on him. And like,
Correct.
You sign up for that.
So I have a question. Do they test fully vaccinated people every day?
No.
But you can still carry it and transmit it even though you're vaccinated.
Yes. That was his whole argument, is like, you know.
Yeah, it's just the execution of all of it is bothersome.
Oh, that's not going to be my conspiracy theory for the week, but I'll definitely get to that one on another podcast. So, Andy, what's pissing you off this week? Nothing.
You.
Yes,
It's like,
I do that often. Yeah.
no, nothing's actually pissing me off this week, but I don't watch the news anymore.
What about cardboard? Is cardboard pissing you off?
Oh, the Columbia thing. Not really. It's just a problem to solve. We're probably going to have our Christmas shoes shipping in poly bags rather than cardboard shoe boxes, because our manufacturers, the shoebox manufacturer, can't get cardboard right now.
Sounds like a marketing opportunity to me.
Yeah, like, sorry, you're not going to get a box for your shoes. They're going to.
We've included a parachute free of charge.
If I could make a parachute that fast, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I wonder. Yeah,
These will keep your feet dry.
I'd say we could do the fireworks parachutes, but now we're shipping explosives, and I'm sure that there's paperwork I don't want to fill out around doing that and everything else. But No, I mean, that kind of stuff is all honestly just the normal stuff. Yeah. So I'm doing my best to try and not be like actually angry about things.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a little heated on a plane this past week.
Go figure.
Well, it's when this whole Afghanistan thing kicked off. Normally, I don't watch the news because I don't trust the news. And then with all the stuff with COVID going on, just everybody's hucking accusations back and forth, and it's just too much. So I typically turn off the news. I would listen to the news every morning. I would say, hey Google, play me today's news on my phone. And then I would drive my daughter to school and we'd listen to the news to hear what's going on in the world. And you'd listen to the word tracks, and I hit pause and I hit Stella, what'd you just hear? And she's like, oh, this happened. I was like, nope, let's play it back again. Let's go back to the tape. This may have happened. So listening to the word tracks that the media is saying, and after, a year and a half of doing that, I was like, I can't listen to it anymore. Afghanistan kicked off. A lot of conservative media put us on the news. I got on Fox News a bunch. But I'm exceptionally diligent about keeping all of our media contacts. And when Afghanistan went off, like, we're subject matter experts on it. Mm-hmm. We're business owners that work there. We've served there. We speak to people there every day. We have a real pulse on what's going on. And I emailed every single person, texted them, called them, every media channel. Only Fox News responded, and a couple other like conservative news stations. And I was pretty heated, right? So I got after the bullshit and the lies that were being stated from behind podiums at the Pentagon and the White House and State Department. And I don't have no problem calling bullshit on those lies whatsoever. But it's forced me to listen to people around me like, oh, you're being a talking head. You're being leveraged by Fox News. And this is what I'm a Henry Crown Fellow with the Aspen Global Leadership Institute. And a lot of people reached out to me. He's like, you got to be careful working with Fox. And this is from a reporter from CNN. I'm like, well, hey, put me on your network.
Crickets.
Nothing. But it's forced me to, when I get on an airplane, your media is right there. Everybody can see what you're watching. And I will, take a break from working on an airplane or whatever, and I'll pull up the in-flight satellite TV, and it has CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. And so I'm constantly flipping back between the three. One, because I don't want everybody on the plane to hate me if I'm just sitting there watching Fox News the entire time, which I'm not the biggest fan of what they put on. I'm not a big fan of any news station or media station. But then I want to hear what each one of them are saying in contradiction to one another. And so it was Brian Williams was finishing up one of his nightly newscasts because I was flying in on a late night flight, and he was talking about the loss in Virginia and how the Democratic Party lost and how it was bad for everybody. And, I'm going to preface saying I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat. I might claim libertarian, but I just want to go with a person who can actually do their job, who can lead people toward a positive outcome that's for the benefit of all. And he quotes this girl. Her name is, I got to pull it up here real quick here. Leah McGowan. She's a Canadian-born photographer and writer that now lives in California, and she hosts a YouTube channel from her kitchen called Politics Girl. Huge following. And so Brian Williams quotes her on a lesson to the Democratic Party, and she's got this 2-minute rant. You can go to her YouTube channel. It's called What Happened in Virginia. And she starts raping the Democratic Party for their inconsistent messaging. And she's like, and I tend to agree, like, hey, everybody's got to get in line from the guy at the top all the way guy down to the local city politics. Is you guys should have a uniform message. Everybody should deliver an outcome. You should say it in 6 words or less. But then she starts tapping into, you need to get into their psyche. You got to be like an earworm in their ear. And what I'm hearing her say, and this is promoted by Brian Williams on MSNBC, is the Democratic Party should be brainwashing the American people in 6 words or less. And I was like, I kind of kank my head when you hear that this is getting fed to typical, like every household in America who's watching the news and listening to Brian Williams as one of the most respected journalists in America on the right thing to do. And he's promoting the Democratic Party in 6 words or less, somewhat brainwashing you. And I was like, okay, maybe she's using the wrong words. She's doing this from her kitchen. She's a writer and a photographer. Maybe she doesn't understand the implications of what she's stating. But then she goes, and all this crap is promoted with lies. You know, they tried to lock Hillary up for Benghazi. And then I flipped. I was like, okay. The United States waged war in Libya with U.S. tax dollars to out Gaddafi, murdered thousands of people. I know F-16 droppers that say we were weapons free. We saw it, we could hit it. Dropping millions of dollars off U.S. aircraft, followed up with poor State Department policy, which hopefully now more people see the State Department fucking sucks. They suck in and they suck so bad. And Benghazi happened, and then, you know, Hillary was responsible. They screwed up and people died. Now, the facts may have been tuned around it, but for somebody to just state that so flippantly and then promoted by Brian Williams, oh, Benghazi was a lie. No, it wasn't a lie. People died. American taxpayers paid billions of dollars to have this outcome, and then they shirked all responsibility for it.
Sounds familiar.
Pissed. I was sitting in an airplane fucking mad, right? That this is what's being pushed to the American people. I am so for a competent leader leading people to a positive outcome, getting their subordinate leaders to deliver a positive, uniform message, everybody on the same page, to deliver the best outcome for the most amount of people. But yet, she's the message that I heard was brainwash them. Everything else is lies. Ignore facts. Don't worry about that. Democratic Party needs to brainwash people. I got fucking mad. I got heated about that.
You shouldn't watch the news on planes.
I can't.
You can't even stand up. You're in a little tiny chair.
And like, it doesn't have the same effect when I throw like a little teeny plastic cup at my screen. You know,
You can't even.
yeah, you're right there.
I think I'm trying not to hit my face on the screen.
And the worst part is I know a lot of reporters, and I believe that they have the best of intentions
Most
with what
of them,
they're doing.
yeah, I think so.
And they're reading the information that's given off on the screen, and they put a lot of trust in a lot of people to do that. But I know they don't watch the commercials in between what they're promoting. You know, between the dick pills, the pharmaceutical companies pushing everything, you know, the people pushing Medicare, Medicaid, whatever hotlines to, you know, siphon money out of older folks and whatever, some car insurance. They don't see the.
I think
see
you
what's
named
actually
every major
paying.
sponsor of every major news organization just now.
Correct. Yeah. They don't see who's paying them to instill fear through this messaging and then serving them, the American consumer, the commercial for the product on the backside that supposedly solves that problem. Frustrating. I wish more people could see it like from that perspective. To watch the news, then watch the commercials. Do the two line up.
Usually pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
On that note, let's move on to more positive things. Where can people go to find your book?
I think the best place to find it is your local bookstore. You know, those people that still exist. Local bookstore, they can get it via their suppliers, but it's also available online at all major book retailers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Walmart, Target, you name it.
Who published it, or is it self-published?
It's published by Diversion Books out of New York City. And yeah, it's available everywhere.
Right on.
Sweet.
Just ask.
Now, if people wanted a signed copy to reach out to you directly, how should they hit you? How should they contact
My
you?
website actually has an option for a signed copy.
Is that somewhere?
I
in
would, my website, www.drtonybrooks.com or drtonybrooks.com. I would prefer that we meet in person, maybe at a bar, maybe at a restaurant
For tacos.
for tacos, and I sign it rather than having to mail it to you. But it is an option on my website if you are so inclined. I'd rather share a beer, but just me.
He gives a fantastic adjustment too.
Better believe it.
Yeah.
That is my day job.
That is your day job.
Actually, I ran here from the clinic. Obviously, I'm still in my clinic garb here.
I was really happy when you showed up in that.
Oh, I literally finished with my last patient, ran out the front door, told my front desk, peace. She's like, am I done? Yeah, I'm done. Bye.
Later. Log it up.
Well, it's good to have you back here in Washington. We're going to miss you when you go to Texas. And I'm super thankful you're here today.
thanks for having me. It's fun to go down the rabbit holes and talk about the craziness we're living in right now.
Yeah. There's some stuff going on.
I mean, I think all three of us can agree that to disagree on a lot of things, and that's okay.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Like
Seriously.
yeah, I mean, I tried to like put my hand on his thigh earlier, and he was not okay with that.
But I didn't punch you.
He didn't. Oh, okay, so maybe I read it wrong. Griff, on the other hand, welcomes it.
Yeah. I'm
No,
into it.
he'd have jumped you. Like, he'd come right over the table if he'd actually.
We've been playing footsie underneath the table all
We have. Yeah.
all podcast.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, thank you again. And as always, feel free to feel free.
Oh, I'm gonna be feeling free.
Yeah.
Nice.
In Texas. All right, that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.